As a matter of fact, this box itself, let's not even get to the oil yet. Let's talk about the box. Alabaster box was made up of various marbles, which were excavated out of Egypt. You got me? Very expensive box or bottle. All right? And inside of it, it was so expensive, and it was made for this order so you could keep precious ointments, oils, perfumes within it. And the perfumes that you see, you notice he says spikenard, very precious. Somebody say spikenard. And spikenard, really, you look at the Greek, there are two words, but it's really, it's nard from the plant nard out of India. It's a plant in India called nard. And so when you see spikenard, it's saying pure nard. Somebody say pure nard. So those are the two words, pure and nard. And not just that it's nard, but it's pure nard, which adds to its costliness, okay, as to why it's so expensive. It's unadulterated. It is genuine nard. You got me? Say pure nard. It's the real stuff. Now, what happens in these times, we got one of our ushers is an undertaker, and he's talking. He didn't hear me right now. So one of our ushers is an undertaker, and he's the last one, to let you down. But they didn't embalm people like we do now. It's probably why you saw more people being raised from the dead. They gave the Lord something to work with. Now, don't call me down to the funeral home if y'all done took out everything that I could use on the inside of it. You done drained all the blood out of them. Come on, talk to me. And shot this other stuff in them, this embalming fluid. They didn't embalm people like that then, right? What they would do is, of course, they had this linen that they would wrap you in, but before that, they would cover your body in these oils and perfumes. The purpose of that was to retard the stench, the smell. You got me? And bury you quickly. But remember Lazarus, I mentioned a moment ago, because when he was a friend of Jesus, but when he got word, he waited a little while, and when he came there to see about Lazarus, they said, why come now? He stinketh. He's been dead for 4 days, right? Jesus simply said, in essence, forget about the stink, roll away the stone. Touch your neighbor and say, forget about the stink, roll away the stone. And so when Jesus got to the graveyard, he had to call Lazarus by name, because if he just said, get up, man, everybody been getting up out the grave. He's got some kind of word. So he said, Lazarus! There was a rumbling behind the depths of the grave, and all of a sudden you saw this mummified image come out. It was like, whoa. Jesus said, loose him and let him go free. In other words, unwrap him, untangle him. Touch your neighbor and say, loose me, let me go free. Well, it was a little different then, because, the embalming was different. Jesus undoubtedly had been talking to his disciples about his soon coming death. Why ultimately he came, and that is to give of himself. He had those conversations with his disciples, but there's some theologians that debate and say that Mary did what she did unbeknownst to the death of Christ, or this soon crucifixion. I beg to differ. I beg to differ because she's so intentional and so worshipful. And let me tell you something. Folk can sit around you. You may not be talking to them, but they heard you. Oh, yeah. Touch your neighbor and say, I was listening. You heard a whole lot by accident. Mail didn't have your name on it, but you read it. Amen, somebody. And so Mary then were around often when Jesus was talking to his disciples, and he told them on several accounts, I've got to die. I came as the ultimate sacrifice. And one time Peter said, no, you ain't got to die, Jesus. And Jesus called Peter Satan. He said, Satan, get behind me. In other words, get out of my face with that distraction. You can't let people distract you away from your purpose and who you are and what God has called you to do. Say amen, somebody. Look at somebody and say, I've got purpose around me. Yeah, people will tell you what you shouldn't do. Oh, I got to do all this. Say amen, somebody. And so I believe she believed, and maybe some think she didn't because so many disciples didn't. They act as though they didn't know. They were surprised when it came to the time of his death. They knew, they believed, should I say, they just didn't receive. See, it's one thing to believe, but another thing to receive. See, one act is in meditation and in thought, but the other is in response. What does my faith cause me to do? See, whenever you receive, you become an active part of. I believe this water is for me. But when I do this, it's mine. Touch your neighbor and say, you got to receive it. You got to receive it. Amen. You have to become an active part of what it is that you have perceived. See, once you perceive something, you got to receive it. You can't just think about it. You got to do something about it. Look at somebody and say, you can't just think about it. You got to do something about it. Thought is one thing, but then you got to respond or react to what you've been thinking about. Is that right? You can think something, but then you got to become what you've been thinking. You can think I'm going to get that job, but then you got to go out and fill the application out. Come on, talk to me something. You can think about getting a house, but you got to go out there and look for it, and then you got to put a contract on it. Talk to me somebody. Look at your neighbor and say, quit all that thinking and go do something. Start doing something. Start doing something about it. And so they heard Jesus, but they didn't believe because, remember, even when Jesus was taken away, Peter denied him 3 times. Remember, even when Jesus was buried, they forgot about the resurrection. They somewhat scattering, wondering how, man, we got to get up out of here. They're going to kill the rest of us. They forgot. He said, in 3 days, I'm getting up. It took a sister again. Look at the girls. Look at the girls. It took a sister again to tell them, he's risen. Like he said. I don't want to get too far. That's my Easter sermon. So notice, she does the unthinkable. She has this, so you don't know what folk have. Yeah, you don't know. They look like they don't got nothing, but you don't know what people have. Because this bottle of alabaster oil, this was the equivalent of a year's salary. That's how much it was worth. A year's salary. Judas, who they suggest is the one that perhaps brought this up. He's the one that claimed that this is unnecessary. Remember, he sold Jesus for the price of a slave. But here she is worshiping Jesus with the price of a year's salary. Don't you tell me my worship and my praise is unnecessary. Who are you to tell me my praise is unnecessary? It don't take all that. It don't take all that hollering. Just tell us the word. What's all that hollering for? You see how folk act. What's all that running around? Why he got to be running all around the church? What's that all about? What's all this? How we ain't got to say amen. You just tell us what you gonna tell us. What all these offerings for? Y'all got, every time I turn around, y'all asking for money. It don't take all that. How many services? 4 services on a Sunday. My God, people got families. Oh, I heard you. I read the mail. Mm-hmm.